pattern recognition is very important in science, and I see a pattern here in the finds.
You have here a very interesting comparison between the Prime Minister Imhotep of Pharaoh Joseph and Joseph.
Yes. And in this case, you see, I'm looking at the pre-Exodus story, starting with Abraham and Jacob and Joseph and Moses and so on. Is to see, can we find these characters in the Egyptian history? And with Joseph, they came to Egypt, and there's a long biblical story about this. Then the question is, can we find him in the Egyptian history? In this case, I can't follow the Egyptian chronology. It's very uncertain in these old periods. But if I look at the character of the first prime minister of Egypt, that is the only person in Egyptian history that has been second to Pharaoh during the only 7-year famine, starvation in Egypt. And when I compare this Imhotep with Joseph, it's of the 27 characters I find, 25 are exactly descriptions of these two people. So then you have to ask the question, is it really two different people, or is it actually the same person? But it's in the biblical history called Joseph, and in the Egyptian history called Imhotep. So that is a hypothesis, an assumption, but it's a very, very great similarities between these two people.
Once I visited Stockholm, I tried to find the statue of Imhotep in Stockholm. Is it really there in the museum?
Imhotep is a person that is relatively well known in the Egyptian history. There are small statues of him at many locations. And there are universities in the US that use him as a logo because he was claimed to be the first doctor. So there are medical universities in the US that has him as an icon or an illustration of their medical training. So he's a rather well-known person.
Yeah, at that time the museum was closed, so I couldn't trace it. So you have some of these artifacts also in Stockholm. Oh, and then it's a very interesting documentation of the how would you say that it could relate to Joseph?
Yeah, and that is also a theory or an assumption, but what one should note, this is the first pyramid of Egypt. The character of this pyramid is from Mesopotamia, this step-like character. And the family of Isaac, Jacob, and Abraham, of course, they came from Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers, Euphrates and Tigris. So you could relate the structure and the character of it to their homeland. And the other thing is that the step pyramid is the only pyramid that is surrounded by a huge wall. It's a huge area of land. It's just one entrance. It's like a small door. So either you would keep people in there or keep people out of there. If you keep them in there, it would be a prison. But since the pyramid was there and that was a tomb of the pharaoh, you wouldn't have that as a prison. But if you have valuables there, then you needed a great wall. And according to the biblical history, Joseph had a center where he sold grain to the whole area of the Middle East, and people came with everything they had. So somewhere in Egypt, you should look for a place where they had all the valuables you could think of that was to be found in the Mediterranean area during that time.
There are huge stone buildings underneath, and if you check those, the Egyptian archaeologists tend to claim that they are huge tombs of people.
Yes.
What would you say about this theory?
Yeah, I'd say in this case I actually would state that they're wrong, because we know what the tombs looks like in Egypt. Small caves deep down into rocks. Here we talk about huge shafts that has the volume of 4,000 trucks. And they claim that this is kind of a sand trap, that sand or gravel would come down on a person that was going down to the tomb at the very bottom. But do you really need 4,000 truckloads of sand I mean, it's enough with a big piece of rock if you want to kill a person. They look exactly as farmers have when they store grain, these kind of structures above ground, but here it's underneath in a dark, dry, very nice condition for storage.
So if the valuables of the world were collected there, would it be possible to think that all the other pyramids were built using these resources, financial resources?
That's a possibility. I haven't really looked into the more well-known pyramids. I've stayed with the Exodus story, but of course if you have a lot of money coming into the country, you can do a lot of things, like building things or whatever. So that's a possibility.
Yeah, and if a rich person have excessive money, he usually puts the money into his tomb buildings.
And basically that is done today as well.
Yeah. Oh, what other traces of the Exodus, possible Exodus, you have found in the Middle East?
Well, first we find a person, Moses, and it's likely that we find him, and that's time matched as well, with the name Senmut. He's an adopted person that come into the royal family, and he has a very, very similar, I mean, it's like a blueprint of the Bible when you read about this Senmut. Then, of course, we have the hard times that started in Egypt, where the Hebrews were suffering. That ends up with the Exodus when they all leave the country. And that is really what the book is about. In what direction did they go? What was the aim? Where did they cross a body of water? Where can we find remains of all these people, about 2 million people, according to the Bible, when they counted the people? Where do we find the altars and all these things? And that is what the book really is about. To follow the pathway they went in the Middle East into areas where no one is allowed to go today. It's not a single archaeologist that is allowed into these areas. They are fenced, barbed wire, machine gun guards. No one is allowed to get close to it.
Definitely you are not referring to the traditional Mount Sinai.
No, that's correct. And the traditional Mount Sinai on the Sinai Peninsula, this peninsula that is so well known, that is between Egypt and Asia. The mountain there, it's just a tradition that started 1700 years after the event. And that's related to a saint, St. Catherine. I mean, they had a marvelous chapel there, Chapel of St. Catherine, and then a marvelous monastery, Monastery of St. Catherine, and then they named the mountain, Mount of St. Catherine. So it's a marvelous place, historically very interesting, but doesn't have anything to do with the Exodus.
Is that the real modern theology tends to think that there is no hard evidence of a real Exodus?
Yes, and the thing is, they are not really dealing with it from a scientific point of view. First, they are right, because they say at the traditional Mount Sinai, this could not be the place. It doesn't fit. I mean, it's just wrong. And they're right in that. But then the next issue is the biblical story completely wrong or a fake story? Or is it at some other place where we would find the mountain? And that is the issue. And I completely agree on that. The traditional Mount Sinai is not relevant.
Okay, I would like to ask about the place of the Red Sea, where the crossing site.
Yeah, and that's an important issue. And first I would like to say that the Red Sea is not mentioned in the Bible at all. In the original text it's called Yam Suf. We don't know what that means, and therefore we should not translate it to anything else. Red Sea, that name came into existence when they made the first Greek translation of the scripture around 200-300 BC. At that time they only know that the body of water between Africa and Asia was called Red Sea, and then when they made the Greek translation they just added that, and that has been there since then. If we should look for a name of a crossing site through a body of water, it's Yam Suf. And in the scripture, in the biblical text, we'll find more than 50 references to Yam Suf. that describes it in detail and